Hello, and welcome to yet another live contemplation of the day signature. Today's day signature is the frequency of 36, and what we're doing in these videos is correlating that frequency to the liberated tarot member that it connects to, as well as to the angels that it connects to, as well as to the lessons and the insights and the messages that all of those connect to. We're doing our best to provide not just a summary or a reading, but ultimately to provide an invitation for anyone watching these videos at any point in time to seek in specific directions in order to activate certain specific parts of themselves. Mm-hmm. That about right?
Yeah. It's the energy of the day based on the different, modalities that we've developed and work with. The 64 angels, the liberated tarot, and the number frequencies.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And this is a part of the investigative act that we're engaged in all the time. It's also a part of the investigative act that we are going to continually not only introduce to you, but invite you to engage in. We've mentioned in previous videos how the website itself has been designed as a resource. It's designed as a tool. It's meant to be explored. It's meant to be made use of. And so we hope that in sharing our different ways of going about using that tool, you might be inspired to do the same in your own way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in your own way. There are no rules. We ourselves are just learning how to use these resources ourselves. So there are no rules, but it's all about just the frequency of wonder, the exploration of it, having fun.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Now, speaking of frequencies, today's day signature is the frequency 36. This is significant in part because that is one of my personal frequencies, and it's one of my personal frequencies in more than one area. So in any case where we have an overlap between a personal frequency and the day signature, or a personal frequency and the month signature, or a personal frequency and the year signature, we have what we would refer to as a personal vortex day. There's something real special happening here. In this case, we've been kind of jokingly referring to this as a double vortex day because it sounds cool, but it's also kind of true. Mm-hmm. The frequency of 36 is directly connected to my crystal self. It is the activated crystal frequency in my crystal self. One of the most powerful frequencies that we meet in the Crystal Self Odyssey. It's also one of the most powerful frequencies you can meet in the Crystal Self Chronicle, which we offer on the website. Mm-hmm. The Odyssey, by the way, is a long-form 12-week small group experience. It's a lived interactive event. The Chronicle is a digital booklet that we prepare for you, including a literal chronicle of personal frequencies, one of which is the activated crystal. Mm-hmm. So it's a really special frequency that I personally have been working with for years, and it's really fun to be living in that energy today. The number 36, or frequency 36, is also my bloom number. This is a frequency you will receive in the frequency portal, and for those of you investigators out there, you may like to know that the bloom number is derived using your current age. So I'm 36 years old. My bloom number is 36. This means that the frequencies and lessons and ideas inherent to the number 36 are going to be blossoming in my experience this year. Those gifts and those talents and those opportunities that we discover as we investigate this frequency, those are the very things kind of coming to life in my life this year because of that bloom number. But it's also what we're going to find coming to life today because of the day signature. You can see how exciting that might be. Mm-hmm. It is exciting for us.
Yeah.
All right. So now that I've effectively hydrated, we get to move along.
It's important.
The first thing we need to do is share the basic elements at play in this day signature. We know that we're working with the frequency of 36. We know that the 36 corresponds in the liberated tarot to the 8 of swords. Since we're working with another sword, we know that we're working with a sword virtue. In this case, the sword virtue is the sword virtue of knowing. Mm-hmm. There are two angels representative of this liberated tarot member of the 8 of swords. The first is the angel of worth. This is the 14th angel. The angel of worth walks the pathway of
receptivity.
Yep, receptivity to become the embodiment of
supreme bounty.
Oh, supreme bounty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, as you may notice, Laura's really good at finishing all of my
sandwiches.
Yes! All of my sandwiches. That's correct. We've been working on that one for a long time. This is the first time she's ever nailed it.
That's true. I usually say sentences.
She usually says sentences, and then I correct her because I'm a very nerdy type of clown, but I could not be more proud of you. Thank you.
I figured you'd be really proud about that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now all the world knows what a dope I am and how sweet you are. Okay, back to business. Ready? 14th angel is the first of the angels we meet here. There's a second angel representative of the Eight of Swords, and this is the angel of transformation. This angel has the longest name of any of the angels. I know this because we've been trying to squeeze that word into graphic designs for the last few months, and it's always the tricky one.
Yep.
But it's also always one of the favorites. The angel of transformation. This angel walks the pathway of
experience.
To become the embodiment of gentleness.
Which is, definitely something that you might not expect to be the embodiment for this angel, because I think so many people live life, have experiences of life, and their experience of life is that it hardens them, not makes them softer or gentle. But this is definitely one of those moments where we have an opportunity to completely flip the meaning of, or flip our expectations, something that we expect to happen. It's actually the total opposite of the truth.
So a couple of things that leap into my mind as you're sharing this. First, that's very important. I hope that all of you watching or listening, even if you need to rewind and hear it again, can grasp the significance of this. Experience does not harden us. It's not meant to harden us. It's meant to soften us. It's meant to open us. What it's meant to open us to is a direct, lucid awareness of the miracle that life is. And as we meet that miracle more and more with clear eyes, of course we soften to it. Of course we surrender to it. Of course we choose over and over again to release ourselves to that stream of goodness that is life. If we're operating under the assumption that life is out to get us, or that we're on some kind of great epic personal challenge for the purpose of self-development, or even that we're living some kind of hero's journey in order to achieve something ultimately or eventually, we're probably going to find that our experience hardens us. The moment we even begin to consider that underlying all of this movement, all of this activity, all of these circumstances, all of these opportunities and conversations, life, underpinning all of this is goodness, something inside of us breathes a sigh of relief, even at the idea that it could possibly be true. This leads to softening. This leads to gentleness. And one thing we've learned over and over again through both the stones that we've met with and the angels that we've met with is that as we soften, we open. And as we open, there's more room, literally, more room to receive, which is right on theme.
Yeah, that's exactly what the 14th angel of worth talks about. In order, receiving is automatic, we receive, but when we relax, we receive what we're actually wishing for. We get to choose that which we wish. So it's all about that softening process and being open to what life is ultimately wanting to deliver to you, which is that supreme bounty.
Oh, is that all?
No, just a little bit of
supreme bounty.
Yeah.
I love this. What you just described there just kind of harkens back to what you described previously. This flip-flop. You get the opposite of what you've been kind of trained to expect. When we expect experience to harden us and then find that it's actually softening us, that it's yielding gentleness, that's a surprise, but it's a perfect flip. It's like 180 degrees in the opposite direction. The same is true here. We have this opportunity to open to the idea that life is good and that the best is always happening for us. This is a part of what the day brings, part of the awareness, a part of the invitation. Even if the best you can do is consider the possibility.
Right.
However, it's worth saying that if you can get past consideration of the possibility to a powerful personal reclamation of that as truth, things do begin to change. And this is where the angel of transformation comes in like a storm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were talking earlier about the way transformation feels. I might as well share this little piece for starters. Transformation is not always gradual or progressive. The word progress may sound familiar to those of you, by the way, who met with us yesterday, because that was yesterday's angel of progress. Well, here we have angel of transformation. Transformation is different from what we tend to think of in terms of progress, because progress often happens in a progressive manner, in a gradual fashion. But when we think about transformation, all I can imagine, or perhaps even all I'm being shown, is a chick breaking free of its egg, or a butterfly breaking free of the cocoon. There's this explosive, dynamic, even uncomfortable, and even terrifying elements to the act of transformation. But finally, that chick is breathing fresh air. Mm-hmm. And finally, that butterfly, which was once basically a slug, a caterpillar, can fly. Mm-hmm. It's not even similar to what it once was. This is a quantum leap. Another image we've been kind of considering over the past 2 days is the image of a sprout breaking free of the soil for the very first time. Mm-hmm. What I love about each of these 3 images is that in every case you have a developmental process which is unfolding flawlessly by some great intelligence which is unseen. And the progress itself, that inner process, you know, what's happening in the egg or what's happening in the cocoon or what's happening under the soil, no one sees it. You don't get to see that. You don't even know what's happening. In fact, there's probably a lot of angst and worry over nothing's happening until, bam, overnight something happens.
Right. And all the while, the caterpillar or the plant or the chick doesn't really know what's happening to it either, but it has to trust it. It's trusting this process, this, you know, and something inside of it knows. It's trusting that knowing to carry you through and to something much greater.
Yes. Oh man, this is so rich. The caterpillar becomes sludge. It becomes literal like slurry. It's nothing. It becomes nothing before it becomes everything. The little seed, maybe it thinks under the soil, maybe it thinks it's under attack. Maybe it thinks it's under siege by these billions of microbiological entities which start to eat it and feed back into it and interact with it. And it's like, what? Mm-hmm. It's just a little seed, you know?
Yeah.
I can't help but think that the chick, which has been at home for all this time, this nice, warm, comfy home where it hasn't had to do a thing, it just kind of is. Yeah. You know, the breaking of that home, we see it as this wonderful moment of transition, but, you know, birth can be terrifying. Mm-hmm. What of the home I once had? What of what I thought was comfortable? What I thought I needed? Where'd it go? Now it's gone. We talked about this too. You've never heard a story, nor will you, of a chick going back into the egg, pulling all the pieces back together and surviving in its egg, or of a butterfly squeezing back into a cocoon, or of a plant just, you know, saying, nah, I don't like it up here with the air and the sun and the wind and the bugs. We're going to go back into the soil. The progress happens and it sustains, because once you're changed, you are changed. That's transformation. That's the kind of the bursting potential of this frequency. And as I'm speaking, I'm getting chills, because it's like behind the words is this awareness that, oh, I'm not telling these people viewing or even sharing with you this story. This is my story. This is the story I'm called to live. The story that I'm being initiated to today. The story that's being activated in me. Mm-hmm. These videos are a perfect example of that explosive context, that movement being so dynamic. It was nothing. Those of you who are going to benefit from this need to know, maybe down the line, that there was a long period of time where we were not doing this.
Right.
Where we perhaps wanted to, or were even aware that it would someday happen, but we're not yet doing it. And there were definitely periods where we definitely weren't doing it because it was far too terrifying and we would never want to do it. That's the story we were telling early on.
Right.
But here we are.
Yep.
That is not arbitrary. That is totally significant. It's not even arbitrary that all of that happened a couple of days before this moment. Mm-hmm. So that arriving at this awareness of the angel of transformation, we have a real life experience to look at and say, oh my,
Right.
this is no longer an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for us, it hasn't been, transformation has not been an idea for us from the beginning. We've been kind of breaking mold after mold as long as we've been together. And a great part of that has been uncomfortable. It's required a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, what it's required is trust.
And gentleness.
Oh my. Yeah. With
Yeah.
one another.
Yes.
And with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Oh man. Wow. It's pretty funny. In the lead up to this conversation, it honestly feels like we've had this conversation with you 5 times already today. We went for a walk. We had the conversation. We prepared for this. We had the conversation over and over. Last night we had the conversation. We were excited to arrive at this moment. Mm-hmm. And still, this moment is new. Mm-hmm. It's totally unrehearsed. So we've looked at the angels, right? We know what the different pieces are. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're very excited about those angels and what they're showing us today. But I think a really appropriate next step would be kind of to rewind to the sword virtue of knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Do you think it's time to? I haven't forgotten any
Absolutely.
pieces.
No, I mean, we've talked about the 2 angels that connect to this frequency of the day. And now I think it's important to understand how the 8 of Swords and the theme of knowing kind of ties it all together.
Wrap in.
Because that's kind of, I think, the hub. When you know, like, okay, what's the overall theme of the day? It's knowing.
Yeah, okay. I would agree.
Yeah.
I guess actually while you were speaking about the angels, I remembered that we've spoken with the 14th angel.
Yes.
We should mark that.
Mm-hmm. Anytime, the day signature correlates to one of the angels we've actually had a session with, it's a perfect opportunity to actually read that session. Mm-hmm. So the 14th angel happens to be one of the 10 sessions that we've had with the 64 angels. So It's a great opportunity if you haven't read that session yet. It is so rich with, insight and everything we've been talking about.
Yes. Opportunity is a very gentle word. I would actually go one step further, and I would say in any case where you see an angel in the day signature that we've actually had a session with, that is a direct and explicit invitation. Not our invitation either, but life's invitation to you, the angel's invitation to you to come close, to read the words, but more than that, to study the words, to consider the words, to really take them into yourself and consider, wow, what if this were in fact speaking to me right now? And what if this were in fact recorded all the way back then for me today? Mm-hmm. In any case where the angel maps to an angel session, consider an explicit invitation to revisit that session. Even if you've read it 100 times, we've returned to these conversations over and over again, mm-hmm. and it is the strangest, most glorious thing, but every time they're new.
Yeah, and I think that is a really good point, is to really understand that the knowing is timeless, and it connects to wherever you are right now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you happen to find this contemplation a year or two into the future, if you find it then, it's relevant for you then. That's the beauty of knowing, is it's just the timelessness of it.
That's good. So it reminds me of those clocks where instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 12, it just says now.
Yeah.
It's relevant now.
Yes.
Whether that now is at this particular time on this day or whatever particular time it is on the day you're watching it. It's and life is so brilliant like this.
Yeah,
and so generous.
We have a good example of this time.
Okay. Yes, you're right. Okay, so I want to share the example.
Yeah. I
want to briefly connect to knowing, however, as an idea before we share the example. Because for us, the example that we only just realized today. Is the icing on the cake. We love any opportunity we might have to share a personal real life example with you, because we want this to take root. We want it to feel practical and real, not like some piece of entertainment, not like a wonderful idea, but a real thing that you can live inside of. But before we do that, I just want to kind of define knowing. Mm-hmm. It blows my mind that once again, totally unexpectedly, we concluded yesterday's conversation moment with a quote from Topaz on the subject of faith. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
Faith is the absolute knowing that what is desired exists. That's what we ended with yesterday, before we had yet discovered or realized for ourselves that today's theme was knowing. Mm-hmm. So knowing, faith is the absolute knowing that what is desired exists. First of all, this theme of knowing is many times over repeated by the angels. Pick up a session, you're probably going to run into it. But really what it means is unquestioning assumption. That's what knowing is. The angels have used examples. They would say, if you sit down on a seat, you sit down on the seat. There's no big mental question as to whether or not that seat might dissolve when you attempt to sit on it. You know it's going to hold you, so you have a seat. You inhale. You're not worried every time you exhale that there may not be more air available when you inhale. Mm-hmm. You know, absolutely, there's plenty of air, and so you exhale, and then you inhale. Knowing is the most obvious, the most familiar thing, and it is equal to faith. It's absolute. Faith is absolute knowing. It's quite something to consider in these terms that we operate on faith 99.999% of the time. Almost everything in our experience we expect to be in support of our continued existence. Mm-hmm. Your heart beating, the blood flowing through your veins, the food that you encounter, that somehow it will be alchemized into everything your body needs, and on and on and on it goes. There are only these teeny tiny little pockets of experience that we tend to get all bent out of shape on. The subject of purpose, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Money, do I have enough? Am I going to continue to have enough? Mm-hmm. Relationship, what about love? Yeah. How do I get what they have? Mm-hmm. You want what we have, by the way. Everyone deserves what we have. The fact of the matter is, everyone gets exactly what they know they're going to get, exactly what they expect to get. And this knowing is much deeper than the conscious mind, but it's trained into being by the conscious mind. So when we meet this sword virtue of knowing, that's what we're meeting, the opportunity to recognize which areas of knowing truly support us and which areas of so-called knowing are breaking down the value and the benefit and the opportunity of life. We want to absolutely, verbally, consciously, totally eradicate those so-called knowings that move in opposition to the higher truth, to the higher idea, to the more beautiful idea. And we want to absolutely, totally, verbally reclaim those things that we want to be true. And we want to reclaim them in a way that we can begin to act as if they were true because we know that they're true. And the more that we do this, the more that they prove themselves to be true until before long you're not in your mind going, I know this is true, I know this is true, I'm going to act as if it were true. You are simply knowing that it's true. And so you sit down on the chair and it holds you.
Yeah. The angels often describe it as remembering, which means it's been true all along.
Ooh, chills. I love when you do that. Yeah. Because that right there is our perfect segue into the example, I would say. Mm-hmm. Remembering, isn't it the angel of worth that speaks? Well, it's certainly the angel of truth that speaks to this, but a lot of the angels refer to this as an act of remembering.
So our daily declaration today is remember the truth. And that is a quote from the angel of worth, which is the 14th angel.
We just found that. I'm over here like, didn't it?
Yeah.
Remember the truth. Mm-hmm. Linger on that for a moment if you can, if you will, as a viewer, even pause the video. Think of the difference between seeking truth and remembering the truth. Right? Think of the difference between the hard effort of achieving or attaining something and the gentle effort of softening and opening towards something which pre-exists any effort you may have been spending. Something that's ready and waiting and available now. That's huge. This is what knowing connects to. And in any case where knowing does not connect to that, we don't know anything. And we absolutely ought to eradicate that illusion of knowing, which only produces discomfort and more misunderstanding, in order to remember what is true. And the angels say that it's going to feel like remembering. This is a very sensory experience. It's that moment. Right?
Sigh of relief.
It feels like a sigh of relief. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into our example. And ideally, we've shared enough at this point that anyone viewing really has a good taste of the day's signature. Mm-hmm. We're going to share an example of how this plays out. And then we're going to conclude the conversation because we really do want to make this bite-sized enough to continue showing up to. So I would love to let you kind of take lead on what you are seeing in this sequence. Is that all right?
Yeah.
You ready to tell our story?
Yeah.
By the way, story was the embodiment of yesterday's angel. Is one of the words we were working with yesterday. So, of course, today we're inspired to tell a story. That's how this works.
Yeah. So last year at this time, Timothy was sort of learning to trust his own knowing. And that is, it is something that you have to learn to trust. And you do that by sort of taking these little leaps of faith, trusting that, you know, whatever it is that you love or that interests you, you have permission to play with it. And so around this time last year, I was encouraging Timothy to, you know, keep having conversations with the stones. He had already been doing that. If you're not familiar with them, we have a whole collection of these conversations that Timothy has had with various crystals in his collection. And so we both knew, you know, sort of from the outset that he was tapping his own higher intelligence. This is, you know, a lot of people will call it channeling, but when you're really tapping your own knowing, it's for one, kind of scary to trust that, especially when, even though you want to, it seems like too far out or whatever the case may be. So at this time last year, there were certain stone conversations that were being held, and, you know, Timothy would come down from having a conversation with stone and just kind of be like, I don't know. But I'm like, I do. I absolutely do. Keep going. And so today we realized just this morning that during those conversations, the stones were actually speaking to Timothy about the two of us. We were maybe together for a couple of months at that point. It was very, very early on. We didn't have a single iota of a thought that we might be doing this in front of the camera, having a conversation with all of you. That was just not even on our mind at that point. But, you know, as time goes by, you get closer and closer to this remembering or realization that I think we're supposed to be doing this. And so here we are 3 days into showing up for these conversations. And I remember when I wake up this morning that the stones talked about this. And so we went back and we looked at the stone conversations from over a year ago now. And yeah, we found specific quotes from the stones where they talked about how we are together, basically. Timothy, the way that you speak is very prolific. He speaks with depth, whereas I kind of come in and deliver my little insights, you know, in short kind of snippets. And the
big insights.
Yeah.
In little snippets.
Yes, I think that's probably what I meant to say.
Yes.
But one of the metaphors that the stones used for us was thunder and lightning. Thunder kind of rumbles on for minutes at a time sometimes, and lightning is very just a quick flash. But that quick flash, you know, is what activates the thunder to really kind of express.
Yes.
You know.
Thunder always follows lightning in that regard.
So we have some of the quotes that we wanted to share.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yes. However, my turn to provide a little kind of sideways context there.
Yeah, please do.
Because you're sharing from your perspective, which has always been very clear on the subject of me and what I was able to offer through speaking with the stones. And that's very generous, your perspective. In fact, it's only because of how generous that perspective is that we're here today doing this, that the angels exist, that the stone conversations happened in that way. The reason for this is that I was not initially confident about what was happening there. It felt to me like I was really far out into the weeds and all alone there with a crystal in my hand, imagining these conversations. Now, I knew, obviously, on some level, that I wasn't making it up because I couldn't make the kind of stuff up that was coming through. But I had no point of reference for what was happening. And so, frankly, it kind of intimidated me. And on multiple occasions, when I first began meeting with the stones, out of sheer frustration about that, I said, no more, I'm done. And ultimately, I did. I stopped meeting with the stones altogether for more than a year before we met. And after meeting, of course, Laura was poring over these conversations. She's always loved stones and crystals, and so I think there was something about this that really kind of it resonated on that level. It's like, wow, not only do I love stones, but here are stones that spoke. You know, she loved it. Every day she was studying these conversations and sharing things with me. She'd share a quote and I'd be like, wow, that's good. Where'd that come from? She'd be like, you know, it took me a while to catch on to the fact that what had happened was legitimate, that what I had been involved in was not made up. It was on purpose. It was connected to that sea of deeper knowing within me. And only then was I able to really kind of meet the opportunity, or I think the invitation, to revisit that again, but from a new place. And so when I did that, the intention was, I would love to see if the stones will speak again, like for Laura. I would love to meet with one as a gift and like surprise her with that gift. And so I went into the conversation totally uncertain as to whether I would hear a single thing. But I did. And not only that, but once again, I heard things I've never before in my life thought of. They were unrehearsed. They were brand new. They came from somewhere other than my conscious mind or my history of experience or anything I'd studied before. And they told us the things we're going to read to you now. They told us things about us then, more than a year ago now, that we are witnessing the actual experience of in real life, even now as we speak. Mm-hmm. We've witnessed it along the way in different ways, but we're witnessing it explicitly now. It's like we see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And to know that it harkens back to a time that is, to us, like ancient history. A year ago in our world, you would not believe how much has happened for us in that time. So to know that there was an awareness then, a living awareness, active and communicating at that time, that could see what we're living now, even though we could not, and spoke from that place and gave us the hints. Mm-hmm. What do you do with that? Like, we're still over here, like, just mind blown by this.
Well, that's what you do with that.
Yeah, you're right.
You marvel. You are awestruck, and that's what you do with that.
You are such a genius. You're correct.
That's all you have to do, and that's why, again, why we're here. We're here to experience these things and to just be bowled over by it.
That's the pathway of experience.
Yeah.
We talked about that yesterday too at length, how it's not about the idea, it's about the embodiment of the idea. And so we meet this pathway of experience for this very reason. Like you said, this is why. It's so that we can become awakened to the miracles, so that we can soften into a space of trusting, a surrendered state of living out that miracle, of living out that intelligence that supersedes, that transcends our own. So as an example of this, we're going to read to you verbatim a series of messages that came from 3 separate stones. So keep in mind that this wasn't all in a stream. This was 3 separate conversations, each of which totally unexpectedly were kind of like harping on a particular theme. They really wanted us to see it from all these different angles. They wanted to name it a few different things so we'd really get it, so it would stick, and it has. So that when we came to this moment today at our double vortex day, it would just pop, it would land. So let's take turns reading. You want to read one, then I'll read one?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
So on September 28th of 2023, Golden Sheen Obsidian, Timothy had a conversation with this stone, and we actually Is this palm stone here.
You can actually see the sheen. That's pretty cool. Great.
So the stone said, referring to me, by the way, in this quote, she acts with speed, whereas you act from depth. Act together. Her way and your way combine.
That was the first time we had heard anything quite like that. And again, as Laura mentioned, though we had known one another for a couple of years at this point, we had not lived together for more than a few months, a couple months, few weeks, like very short period of time. It's not like we had the opportunity to witness that in one another. It felt random, frankly, at the time. It felt cool and interesting, but it felt like, that's cool. Let's see.
It was as if the stones knew us.
They
knew us intimately, and they knew, how we would be together. So, so that was, at the time it was like, wow, that's really cool, but we didn't have the experience of it yet.
So there I was sitting on a bed holding this stone and receiving those words. She acts with speed, whereas you act from depth. Okay. What do you do with that? Not so much in the moment, except be amazed, right? Mm-hmm. So the next one we met with, I think it was literally the next stone we met with, was emerald. And again, the actual image may or may not come through, but I have this gorgeous Colombian emerald pendant. And this is the emerald that delivered the next message. I'll share it with you now. This one's a little longer. It says, her frequency is specific and sharp, like a diamond, razor's edge, laser beam light. Hers is specific, where yours is prolific, your raging river igniting the light within her. You are a beacon, and she is a laser. Each needs the other to glow. Are you picking up on the poetry in that? Like, oh man, there's a cadence and a rhythm to this. Your raging river igniting the light within her. You are a beacon, and she is a laser. Each needs the other to glow. The same conversation continued later to say this. Lara will see what is invisible to all others. She sees what others cannot. You will expand what she sees. That's what it was telling me. And so we have this image of something real quick that happens in Lara that somehow reverberates into this like demand for expression through me. Talk about a connection between hearts. That's really something. And the previous stone said, your way and her way are meant to combine. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And so we met. Oh, and this was, okay, I love what you did with the dates. This was emerald back on September 29th of 2023. Mm-hmm. There was one more message we received in this same kind of sequence. So I'll let you read that one.
Okay, so this next one is from Black Diamond from October 3rd, 2023. She is the lightning to pair with your thunder. Your powers go hand in hand. So, yeah, I mean, we've had, since that time, over a year of experience together to really understand where these messages came from and to witness them unfold. Mm-hmm. Literally, that's exactly how we are together. And even more so, as soon as we started recording videos together, it was very apparent that, the way we interact, I will speak when I feel like I have something to say. Timothy can speak at length from just this, seems like well of wisdom. And it's really, really something.
It's something for both of us. Hearing you talk about me in that way, I can feel the respect in it. But I'm over here thinking like, what would I have to talk about if not for those lightning streak, rapid fire moments of where did that come from? Insights. Mm-hmm. That's what excites me. And that's what the stones describe, that we ignite one another in this way, that her lightning produces the rumble of thunder that follows. And it's that very like presence of support and expression that is thunder, so to speak, that allows for these moments of, insight to land. We work together, mm-hmm. and that's just us. That's one example. The fact of the matter is every single one of us is engaged in this infinitely complex web of interaction with all of life, and similar symbiotic relationships are unfolding in every direction all at once. The point of these day signatures is to begin to show the tiniest little glimpse into that infinite world. It's like this little window, and you're peering through a window this big into a world that could never possibly be seen through that single window, except it's a larger world than the one you've been in on this side of the window. So we're inviting ourselves and everyone who joins us to first look through the window and say, wow, and then to realize that there's a door next to that window. Yeah. Yeah. You can walk to the other side into that world and see what happens. Mm-hmm. When you do this, the day's angels are showing you what's going to happen. They're promising what happens next. Yeah. The angel of worth talks about receptivity. It tells you when you open that door and you choose to experience what's on the other side, when you choose to receive that supreme mm-hmm. bounty, that's what comes. That's the promise. Mm-hmm. And the angel of transformation is saying, hey, if you'll have the courage to, like the caterpillar, become this kind of amorphous, questioning, worrisome sludge of nothing, you will in fact find that on the other side of that is this gorgeous butterfly, this altogether different type of being that can in fact fly. Mm-hmm. And if you'll just follow that thread, if you'll experience it rather than just consider it, if you'll give yourself that permission, if you'll have the courage, What awaits you is this gentle explosion of self into the infinity of life that awaits. Chills again. This is a yummy conversation.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's new. This is fresh for us. We're going to carry this for the rest of our lives. And we're thrilled to know that YouTube will as well. And each of you who meet us along the way will as well. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the signature of this day. Enjoy investigating the different pieces and allowing them to speak to you in your way. Mm-hmm. I hope that the examples we share land in meaningful and helpful ways, but ultimately, man, I'm excited for the adventure each of you now gets to go live.
Yeah, definitely. I hope that this example gives you just that little bit of courage you need to trust your knowing, because it is absolutely on purpose and leading you somewhere. And that's exciting, but definitely requires something of us to sort of just take one little step to trust that knowing. And it's not always dire or serious. Just play with it. Mm-hmm. Be willing to play and imagine and watch whatever is inside become a reality.
Yes. And use the sword of light. Know the best.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about. Know the best, because Laura knew the best about what was happening all that time ago. I did not. I did not yet know that what was happening was on purpose and valid and meaningful and supportive of some great future that neither of us could see. Had I followed what I thought I knew at the time, I never would have met another stone again. But Laura held a higher vision and infected me with that vision. I permitted that infection. Like, thank you for the contagion. Mm-hmm. This worked out really well. Mm-hmm. If you're going to know the best. Expect the best. The chair will hold you.
Yeah.
Stop worrying over it.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I think what I did for you was I just kept showing you my excitement about the stone conversations.
There was no force in it.
Right. I don't think I was pushy, but I was just,
you were excited.
This is incredible. And I would read him excerpts from it, reading his own words back to him, just so he could feel it from the outside in, you know.
That's all you did.
Yeah.
You were excited. There was nothing, she never pressured me. It was pure joy. It was a genuine desire, a loving desire to like give back to that encouragement, that upliftment, which was a perpetual support for me in those days where I really needed it. That's where all of this came from. And it reminds me, in closing, of a frequency that we find at 360, which is again connected. That's the amplified frequency of the day. I'll read it to you. It says this: love what you love to permit your excitement. Your way unfolds when you do. Mm-hmm. That's all Laura did.
Yeah, that's it right there.
She loved what she loved, which was those crystal conversations, and she did that in spite of me scratching my head going, why do you like those so much? I don't know if they're really a thing. And that excitement infected me, and our way unfolded as a result. Every one of us gets to live this. We are not different from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, of course we are. We're all different from one another, and that's the point. But in terms of capacity, know that what we're describing is one example of an endless number of examples waiting to be lived. This has been a wonderful conversation. I could not be more thrilled by how it's come together. Thank you to every one of you who continue to join us. And we'll continue to show up.
Yes.
Anything else you'd wish to share?
No, I think that does it for the day.
Okay, then without further ado, we'll leave you to your day. We'll see you again very soon.
Bye.